started. I was told I was supposed to do my own introduction. My name is Dr. Abigail Levrini, and I'm from the DC area. I am a clinical psychologist and a doctor in counseling psychology and school psychology from Florida State University. And I have a practice called Psych Coaches out in DC, where I have a number of coaches, ADHD coaches, working for me out there in that area. I try to take my own advice, and what I often tell my clients is that when you're working on things, try to break them up into sections so that you don't do one thing for too long and get easily bored by that. So today we're going to be talking in hopefully 3 parts. The first part we will for sure be doing. I'll be talking about some of the current research in ADHD coaching, and mostly on my own study, which was a case study of a coaching intervention, and some of the fundamentals of coaching, a little bit of that. Part 2 is supposed to be a video presentation, which we may or may not be showing at this point. We're having a little bit of technical difficulties. If not, the slides, I don't know if you all downloaded my handouts, but you'll see that they're not the slides. It's just a little bit of additional information. The slides I will definitely post on my own website and hopefully get CHADD to post as well. And then if we can't show the video today, I'll get that up there on the site as well. And that is actually a couple of actual coaching clients. And so you can see a little bit of tips and strategies about how the coaching process goes, some things I like to weave into the coaching process that you may or may not already know. And then part 3, I have a little bit of an interactive exercise where I want you all to kind of play the coach, and then we'll have some time for question and answers. We might have some extra time if the video doesn't happen. But before we get to that, is there anyone in the audience who actually has ADHD? All right, well, one of the things, keep your hands up for a second. One of the things you may have heard already is that we like our clients to keep their hands busy because it actually helps you to concentrate a little bit better. So if you have it, raise your hands up. All right, I'll give a few more out and then maybe a few more a little later on too. All right, back there. Let's test my arm. All right, and you all can share. All right. Okay. And one other thing that I like to recommend is that if you're having trouble focusing or not sure how long you can keep your focus, you're studying for an hour and feels like maybe 10 minutes you actually got work done and then you don't know where the rest of that hour went, is I have my clients record some music, little tidbits of music, or even a watch alarm or something that will go off every 20 minutes or so. And then you kind of check with yourself. Was I paying attention, or was I drifting off into space? What was I actually doing? So a couple times during the presentation, you're going to hear a noise, hopefully, if it goes well. And I just want you to kind of check in with yourselves. Where was I? Was I paying attention, or has she completely lost me? All right. So just a really brief introduction. I'm not going to go into what ADHD is. But we all know that there are 3 main characteristics: inattention, impulsivity, and hyperactivity, and that these can be not only detrimental to one's academic or professional success, but also your social and emotional success as well. And that students are especially likely to have school failure and complete a post-secondary education, which is why we're focusing on the college student here. And as we're going to show, ADHD coaching, which is gaining in popularity, may provide an effective strategy to ameliorate these effects in adults. So the theory kind of goes that when a child with ADHD is getting ready to go off to college, first of all, sometimes they don't necessarily even go because they want to. It's more because they feel a social pressure or because their parents want them to. So they go and they, often start with very good intentions, and through the semester they kind of lose speed. They start to see some failures. Their self-esteem starts to get hurt. They're at high risk for high-risk sexual behaviors, and drinking and all of the social things that go on at college campuses. And then they end up experiencing failure. Their self-esteem is further, it goes down even further, and their parents get upset. They've lost money, they've lost time and hard work, and it's just kind of disastrous. So that's the theory, and that's why we're concentrating on this group here. And then these are just some of the specific areas where we've seen in research that college students with ADHD struggle. I did a study earlier with Pravat and Ketzer down at Florida State, and we found that areas of time management, concentration, selecting main ideas were just a few of the areas that they actually have trouble.
Well, what about the last one? Can you just explain that? The attributional style?
Negative attributional style is, that's more kind of the emotional impact. So internal means I blame things, when things go wrong, I blame it on from inside of me, not outside of me.
I screwed up? Or?
Stable and global are more, this happens all the time, and it happens in every situation. So if you combine those three attributional styles, that's when your self-esteem is really going to take a hit. Where people who kind of blame things on external things, it's a little bit healthy to do that because it keeps your self-esteem up. Does that answer that? Okay, so the really important point to make here is that, and this is what I tell my clients, if you get one thing out of this, you need to know that ADHD and intelligence are completely unrelated. You can be highly intelligent and still have these struggles. So these are just some of the studies that kind of demonstrate that. And what we're trying to do with coaching is fit the program around the student. Whereas in a lot of learning environments, what we're trying to do is kind of force the other thing around. We're trying to fit that student into the program, and it's not working. So in coaching, that's what we're trying to do. Kind of switch that. So current interventions that we know about and most rigorously studied is psychopharmacology, obviously. We've got a lot of money, and they like to study it. So, but the important thing to remember is that whether you are for or against medication, that only about 20 to 50% of adults are considered responders to medication, and that of those, only about 50% show a significant reduction in symptoms. So that's not a very big number. And then we also have individual counseling and counseling groups, which is more about insight, kind of the why of the behavior. And the studies show that other than cognitive behavioral therapy, which kind of is reflected in coaching, that therapy is not quite as effective. And then we have your classroom accommodations, which are helpful as well. Things like extra time on tests and being able to turn in an assignment a day late. Okay. So here we just have a brief ADHD coaching overview. I don't know how many of you are familiar with coaching at all, but it can take on a lot of different forms. But coaching kind of gained popularity back in the 80s. Obviously we've had athletic coaching well before that. But kind of took off, and now we have life coaches, we have financial coaches, we have fashion coaches, like you can see.
Gardening coaches.
There you go. So it kind of took off then. But what we're trying to do, like I mentioned before, is we're really trying to fit a program around the student's strengths and where they're good, rather than saying, you need to be organized, sit still, attend to. Every single thing that a child with ADHD struggles with is what we demand of them in school. So it makes sense that when they're struggling in school, they say, well, I must not be good at this. I must be stupid or lazy or something. But that's not what it is. And so we take those strengths and focus on those, and we help them meet their